Hello and welcome. My name is TyrionLanstr. Well, folks, I'm really excited to break down the newest update that we've gotten. As you can see, it's not a super dense update, but there are a lot of interesting things here. So we're going to be explaining what the new awakening for Lareo is. We're also going to be looking at some of these new weapons and the improvements to the auto rallies. The rest are just bug fixes, nothing too important or crazy. So let's start with Lareo. If we go to our commanders, we can see that if we scroll all the way down to Lareo, then we can finally see his awakening. So his awakening is called the Golden Infantry, and it explains that each infantry phalanx, which I think is just I think that means lineup. We haven't learned anything else about what phalanx could be in reference to, and I think that's just kind of it could be a translation type of thing where that phalanx and lineup are fairly similar words. I like this phalanx of our country, I should say. Attacks a common attack, so I think that I'm assuming that just means kind of regular attacking, not a weakness attack, or I guess maybe a bleed attack may not count as well, which would be a little bit odd, but not entirely sure. But again, it says the vitality of this phalanx, and again, I think vitality to me is a synonym with health. So I think that just means the health is going to be increased by 5%, and then there's a 50% probability that the next attack will trigger a critical strike. So this is really interesting to me because this language of a critical strike is something that was one of the first things we ever encountered in Awakening. If you guys remember, one of the very first commanders to get awakened was in fact Jon Snow. And looking at Jon Snow's awakening, he has the ability to deal a critical strike, right? His troops get a 20% chance to deal a critical strike. That's what it has always been. His weapon makes it even better, but again, that was the basic awakening. And since Jon Snow, we never got anything else that dealt with critical strikes. So I think it's kind of interesting that with now the latest, this return to critical strikes, whether or not that means that we're going to get more like synergies with it, I will admit that I don't think that Lareo's awakening, I don't necessarily think that it synergizes tremendously. It's kind of, to me, it's just like if you don't have any of the to me is like a free to play Jon Snow. Like if you don't have any of the other 4-star commanders awakened that are going to trigger weakness attacks or bleed attacks or be focused on female setups, then like this is a good free to play kind of discounted version of those awakenings, which makes a lot of sense and is fine, but just means that I think he's not going to have much of an effect on any paid accounts. If you have paid commanders, you're probably never using Lareo's ability, which is unfortunate because I think that I've really liked the trend recently where they would kind of give some sort of owned bonus of some kind. I'm thinking of Russell, for example. He gives his immediately when owned. Same thing again with Jean. Immediately when owned, you get all these health bonuses for both of them. I kind of was liking that trend that we had recently, but Lareo seems like kind of reverting back. Anyway, I do think that it's going to be interesting. I'm intrigued to see whether we get more of the Jon Snow and Lareo type critical hit commanders, but I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. But that's not all that we got in this update. We also had the improvements to the commander weapons. Now, these improvements are really a purely visual thing, and I tend to not spend much time talking about visual things, but this is an exception, and I'll show you why. Just take a look at how cool this looks. So this is one of the ones I own, the Mighty Scythes. This is, of course, Salma's weapon. It just looks really cool, and I'll tell you, if you want an even bigger version of this, if you leave the commander weapon page and just go to the commander, and you click on, let's say, Salma, and I want to see her weapon, then I can see this big version of it here. I mean, it is just so cool looking. I'm really a huge fan of this. You can see it with all of the different types of weapons. So here's Arslan's. I know I have it loaded onto Drake because I'd rather use Drake. But I mean, these all look so cool. There's such an attention to detail here. And I love that they're able to swing around. You really can get a full appreciation for the art that went into these. And I think we don't always take enough time to appreciate some of the cool art that goes into these these weapons. Now, just to note, there are some like some of the non-legendary, like now the books and the axes and stuff spin, which I still think is kind of cool looking. Like I think this gives you a new appreciation for like how cool these books look. And you can kind of see the axe too. They all kind of have their own little quirk to them, which I just think is really fun, and it just makes it all look cooler and a little bit more real. I love this type of art type update. It's not going to change any of the stats for the weapons, but I still think that it is a kind of interesting and worthwhile to note, just this cool little tweak to the game. Now, the last thing that we got changed was the auto rallies. This is pretty cool because I think everyone was really a huge fan of the auto rallies. So again, if you want to find it, you go to your Alliance War, then you go to your auto rally page. The difference is this bottom bit here, where you can actually tell it to specifically send a certain set of troops. So I can set a whole lineup here of what troops I want to send, and then it will send those specific troops. I'm a huge fan of that. You can also, you can basically decide how many you want it to be. That's nothing new, but it is this nice tweak to actually specify which troops are going to go. I am intrigued to see how it's going to interact when you have someone that sets a specific requirements for what troops they want to go. Like if you didn't send, like let's just say for a second that someone starts a rally. So look, I've set a rally here. And what I want to show is I didn't do commanders or anything. I'm just showing. So this rally I have only accepts cavalry. Okay. Now what I don't know is going to happen is if someone has in their preset that they only want to send spearmen, let's say. What's going to happen if they get up? I would assume that it's probably not going to send any spearmen because this rally doesn't ask for spearmen. So it's probably not going to use those troops. So the reason why I show this to you all is just to give you the advice that when you're setting your actual line, you pay close attention to which troops you're actually using. I would recommend sending at least one of each troop type. That way you can ensure that you're actually going to be involved in any rally that happens. I still think also that if you just do the one here, it's just going to send one of whatever troop type is requested, and I think it still prioritizes like the lowest type of troop. So as you can see, T1s are going to be sent before T4s or T5s. So as long as I just have this one clicked, it's just going to send one tier 1 troop of whatever has been requested by the rally leader. That being said, if I want to be more specific, if I want to send tier 5s of each, I could just do one of each tier 5 troop, and then I'm guaranteed to at least be included in each rally. Again, just some kind of cool tweaks to it. Just want to explain for everyone so they can understand how to best utilize this. Well, folks, that's all we have in this update. Definitely an exciting kind of change and some additions that we got. Excited about Lareo, and definitely I love the weapon stuff. Nothing else too major, though. We're just wrapping up the AC season right now, so good luck to everyone involved, and getting excited for Siege of Winterfell, which is coming next. But until then, my name is TyrionLanstr, and I'll see you next time.